Good evening, everyone.
All right. Looks like. Oh, why is my thing frozen? Come on.
Anyway, while you're getting that unfrozen, aloha no, welcome. Today is the 10th of January, the beginning, the start of a new year. We hope you're doing well, I should say. There's a lot of things that's happening in our the news today. I did want to start off by saying a big shout out to the many hands that are undertaking a huge task on the west side. As you know, it was covered in the news. There's a large landslide up towards the back of Waimea Valley, and we have about, I would say, more than 20 families that still live up there that do not have access on Menehune Road, only because right now they're clearing that road, they're clearing that part of the roadway, and the mountain itself is unstable, and the aerial views are unbelievable. So we want everybody to be safe, but we have people helping people. Today, I just saw a whole convoy of UTVs with supplies being, uh, because they have to go across the river, right? So to get around that glitch, and unbelievable. And it's just helping hands, helping neighbors. Friends helping friends. Um, my wife is still on the phone calling up all her different contacts, getting donations of food as well as supplies like propane, stuff like that, just to help these families out because we don't want to see anybody suffering. So I want to give a big shout out and say mahalo to all of you, and I'd like to give a special shout out to my lovely wife Stephanie for all that she is doing. She does it tirelessly, and she doesn't give up. She doesn't give up until it's completely over. So you know what that means. So
Thanks for bringing that up, Charlie. Yeah, a lot. It's one thing, and I can speak for Kauai. I was never in a crisis on any other islands, but I know, I'm sure everybody's the same way. And we did see it on the Big Island with the volcanoes and the flooding on Oahu. But one thing about Kauai, man, when the shit hits the fan, the people come together, and
yep.
there's a lot of people out there that are working round the clock, really. And yeah, so mahalo to all of them, and prayers go out to all of those families that are stuck on that other side.
Yep.
That's what happens when you live on the oldest island. When you live on the oldest island, you tend to have these little landslides and um, these little natural disasters that happen. So yeah, mahalo to all those that are out there. And
Hey, and what's really sad, and I'm just, well, there's so many variables, right? Um, I looked at a lot of people took advantage of the unemployment situation, right? And so they were staying home for the big bucks, really, because there was no there was no level the playing field. They gave you a certain amount, even though you were in a lower category. They just gave you a certain amount. And so what that did is it drove everyone to not want to go back to work. Okay.
mhm.
So that passed us. Now, because of this resurgence in the virus itself, is actually keeping people out of work. Okay. So it's not only in Hawaii, but it's across, and because Hawaii, especially Kauai, the outer islands, is so depending on the shipping lines, it's affecting a lot of these large shippers. So what happens? Those boats stay out for days, even months, out at port off of uh, Los Angeles, right? A lot of goods. That's why if you go to the stores now, hardly anything. It really seems like Armageddon. There's nothing on the shelves, and I feel so sorry for that people really need stuff. For me, I'm so glad I took the position that I just go and eat sparingly, and it's health. But health wise, it's not a good thing. I get a little dizzy sometimes. Not enough, I guess, not enough sugar in the body. But it's just a sad situation. Sad
Oh
situation.
yeah, it's almost like a movie, Charlie.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today. I was watching the headlines as it was coming in. Um, you know, I I saw the people were sending me pictures of the cruise ship that came into Nawili Wili today. It was on Oahu yesterday.
Hmm.
You see the headlines about the hospitals declaring a state of emergency because
Yep.
more patients than beds.
Hmm.
You start seeing all these things, like you saw Armageddon. You see all these things crumbling right before our eyes, right before our eyes. We try to stay positive, but when you look at the reality, and I made the mistake of watching Governor Ige's spotlight this morning. Huge mistake. I don't even know why I punished myself because I watch with the hope that he's going to come out with a message of substance. I really do, Charlie. I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, and like maybe today is the day because all of the healthcare workers are begging for help. All of the school teachers are begging for help. You would think, I just think, okay, today gonna be the day. Today gonna be the day. And what I got today was a pile of diarrhea again, just diarrhea. Um, I gotta say this, Ryan and Yunji. I have criticized them in the past, not much because they pretty much do a good job, but now they are not happy, and I think they are concerned. And I saw the questions, or I heard the questions that they were asking today. They put the governor on the stage, man. They ask him straight up. And this guy, they ask him what thresholds, right? You said when the hospitals, you guys were watching, yeah, just like that. Governor, you said earlier that you guys would be watching hospital counts. Well, it's high, and well, it's not just hospital counts. It's the number of people in the ICU and the number of people on the ventilators. And this guy keeps moving the goalposts because he does not want to take action. He does not want to take any action. Obviously, our lieutenant governor, I'm not even going to discuss him because we all know. None of our mayors, I think Mayor Victorino is going to change the definition of fully vaccinated to including the booster, but that doesn't do anything to stop the spread because whether you're boosted or not, whether you're vaccinated or not, you still spread this virus. So you see, you got to physically isolate the virus. And the only way you do that is by keeping people from gathering. I know you got people going to disagree. People going to disagree and say, no, we got to live. We got to live. I'm not going to go there because we just had a crappy week last week with very close friends dying or being very ill. So, but everything that they said that they would be waiting for has occurred, right? Hospitalizations. Now we are at risk, and I'm not just talking COVID. I see people post when someone posts about the hospitalizations, and somebody say, "Oh, uh, is it COVID or not?" It doesn't freaking matter if it's COVID or not. A bed is a bed. See, when you get, unfortunately, people get sick. They get into accidents. They get strokes. They need a bed. They don't need a non-COVID bed or a COVID bed. They need a freaking bed, and we don't have them. So I don't care how many COVID patients are in the hospital. That's not a metric. The metric is how many beds, how many healthcare workers to service those beds. That's the metric. And right now, that metric is dismal. It's scary, and and we see it with Queens West, emergency, state of emergency, and it's going to continue because this is not slowing down.
Well, I'll be straightforward and say this much: there's nothing we can say or do that can change that damn guy's mind, and I get it, and that's why I don't even get involved with that part of the BS equation, only because I will get physical, and it's not worth it. At my age, it's not worth getting physical. I used to get physical all the time, and I look back at it. Where did he get me? Nowhere. I will tell you this much though: I found myself, because I'm fully vaccinated, I wear my mask religiously, and people just don't want to social distance. They think it's okay to come right into my face. That's why I take on this appearance as being antisocial, and I don't really give a rip, because if that's the only way I can stay safe for my wife and myself, because it's only us two at home. Kids are all grown up. They're all on Oahu. They're all on Maui. None of them are here. Then so be it. And I think people got to learn this. It's okay in this day and age right now to be antisocial, because there's knuckleheads over there that really don't care about you. They think like, I mean, I see this. I looked through my door today from my office, and I'm located right by baggage claim B. And when I see those people walking through, do you think they would allow distance between individuals passing, going out the door, making their way to the carousel? Not at all. It's like a race to the top. Everybody wants to get that position. And what's so crazy is, folks, you all don't have to stand when a bag come out. The carousel goes in a circle. Sooner or later, it'll come by you. Go find one spot where how they get people standing. But not everybody like standing on cluster, like a bunch of bottles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of knuckleheads. It irritates me, but what can you do? I mean, just shut at me yelling at the top of my lungs. Hey, dummies, spread apart. But I don't like doing
Yeah, my fear, my obviously my ultimate fear, Charlie, as I
that.
just mentioned a little while ago, is we're not going to have hospital beds for our loved ones.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
take COVID out of the equation. Let's not even mention the word COVID. Uh, it's like you had a massive car wreck, and you had 14, 15 people in the hospital in ER, and here you come uh, with a heart attack or a stroke, and everybody, it's based on severity of injuries or illness. Your loved one could very well die, and see, that is why I am so angry with our legislature, with our mayors, with our councils, because not one person, they up screaming, starting petitions for get rid of one football coach, one athletic director, and one university president. They are ballistic about that. They are ballistic, rightfully so, about Red Hill, but they're not saying a word. Uh, Not a word. No one uh, about COVID and about the hospital situation, about the school situation, about the our residents situation. It's incredible. Testing is out of control. They cannot even. I mean, welcome, Doc.
Hey,
So sorry, I just
welcome on, guys.
in the middle of a rant right here because
I don't know. I'm listening. I
we
like the
we,
rant.
we cannot even properly, effectively, efficiently test our people. Yeah, Kauai, we get one Louis Pharmacy, we get one conventional. By 9 o'clock, the email went out, press release went out. All right, there we go. Congressman Kahele, I got you on Red Hill. We're gonna get him on. Kai, I hope you can make it on Wednesday. I meant to shoot you an email today, and I just obviously Kai Kahele, Congressman Kai Kahele, U.S. representative, was the only one. I should have corrected myself. The only one that stood forward, had the balls enough to come up and say, we need to fix the unsafe travel program by testing pre and post. So mahalo for that, Congressman, and we look forward to seeing you here hopefully on Wednesday. But
Yeah.
So we get the convention hall, 9 o'clock in the morning. Press release went out. Sorry, we're not taking more today. Sorry, we gave out all our time slots. Louis Pharmacy. I had to go by Kukui Grove today. The line was, of course, around the Target parking lot, all the way on the top to past Macy's entrance. That's I would say it's about a 4 hour wait if you back there, four, maybe even longer. And that's it. So um, they, our leadership from the county to the state has done nothing to alleviate the issues. And get this, guys. It's been 2 years. I am not interested in excuses. I really am not interested in them telling me why we cannot. I don't want to hear it. 2 years, going on 3 years, I'm not buying that no more. So, yeah, I'm going to get harsher as the days go by, because every day that I hear nothing from our council, our mayors, or our state legislature, I'm going to get a little more angry and a little more vocal and a little more expose. We're going to start posting stuff so the people know that your representatives ain't doing anything. And I know I'm ruffling feathers. I know I'm upsetting people. Probably going to lose some friends. It is what it is. This is a life or death situation, and I'm done. Thank you, sir.
I want to say and shout out a big mahalo to Representative Kai Kahele. He's such a real person, right? He still is so connected to the people, and he's connected to the pain the people are feeling. I know he's been over there on the Big Island and very actively involved, and like you saw, he was not afraid to come out and say, what's going on? How is it we're not updating safe travel? The data is crystal clear, so I just really want to shout out and thank him for just being so honest and clear, and that's what we need. And then we flip it to the other side, and we had our other chief executive officer of our state today. And I know, Mel, you and I texted each other, and after that Spotlight Live ended, my comment was simple. What did he say? What was proven? What's different? What did we know? What did the governor? We have the most dangerous pandemic the planet has ever seen. We have it surging beyond recognition in our state. We have our hospitals just desperate right now, as they're moving and plan. Can you guys tell me, Mel, Charlie, what you hear, man?
Before you came on, I described it as diarrhea.
Okay.
Just running, but absolutely serves no purpose. He was just talking to talk. He was not answering any of the questions. He was avoiding all the questions. You did see the question just posted up. He did say the state cannot purchase any tests. I think the one that got me was
Why is
that?
Okay, why is that? As people were texting as that was going on, wait a second. Dr. Miscovich just on Thursday, Friday last week just bought 500,000 of the same test. And you know what? I knew this was going to come up. I watched that in disbelief, so I reached out to my suppliers. And remember, I'm dealing with big medical suppliers. Granted, I'm a big customer since we do so much of this. And I said, if I pushed a button today, could you ship a couple 100,000 tests here to Hawaii? And that was like, they said, when do you want them? How do you want them? And these are the exact same tests we're being told repeatedly. And these are, again, you guys know me. There's about 4 tests, and I've said this in public, that I would say are very trustworthy tests because they've passed surveillance testing, single testing, et cetera. And I could get them. So it just doesn't compute that someone's saying, oh, we just can't find tests or we have no tests. So once again, anybody wants to call me? Anybody that's watching that says, hey, can you get us 100,000, 200,000 tests? Go ahead. I can get BD. I can get Flowflex. Those are the 2 big names that I have very good access to. And both of them, the thing about those 2 tests is they are approved for single-use asymptomatic. There's only about 4 tests that have the EUA for using them one time if you don't have symptoms. There's 42 antigen tests, only 4 have been tested and approved for that. So if you're using some knockoff cheap test, which a lot of people are hawking those, they're not approved if you go up there and you're asymptomatic. You have to be coughing, congested. The bottom line is if you're coughing and congested, most all those tests will pick you up. But if we're trying to increase access and get accurate results for these people to go back to work or something like that and keep it reasonably priced, those are the tests you use. And then, well, I'll get into the other one. Let me say hi to Dr. Akiona so I don't babble, because I'm about to growl and just kind of, So hi, Dr. Akiona.
Hey guys, don't worry about it. I mean, we're all kind of in the same mood. It's like somebody has to growl at this point.
Yeah. Well, let me get this one off my chest. I'm tired of beating around the bush. I talked to, again with our good friend Harry Kim, and I told him about my massive frustration. We have had people publicly going on the news saying that there's no testing available, right? And then we've had these company representatives on the news saying, oh, it's getting harder. We're going to have to ship our tests to the mainland, and we don't have, this kind of stuff. All right, I talked to the best lab in the state of Hawaii, is Clinical Laboratories of Hawaii. 50 years, started by Dr. Moon Park, a Korean doctor. He's passed it on to his daughter, Ali Park. It is part of Sonic Healthcare, which is part of a worldwide lab network. Massive quality. I mean, next lab to that is diagnostics, owned by Queens, runs through Queens. These are our 2 labs that have been here 50 years and are the heart and soul. COVID's going to go away, and guess what? When you need a complex lab, those 2 labs will be supporting the people of Hawaii. So as COVID picked up, clinical labs responded, and they bought a bunch of extra machines. They got extra lab space. They have excellent quality lab directors, and they got them all certified. And they got a 4,000 capability lab over in Hilo Hospital, right, Dr. Akiona? They put one over in Maui Memorial to respond, and they have a big lab here on Oahu. And guess what? All the contracts went to these bozos that are basically shipping them off for profit. Nomi Health, and a couple of other these ones that got contracts on Oahu and the Big Island. And clinical laboratories had to lay off people. So we have capability as of today, 6,000 to 7,000 24-hour return PCRs that we could send them tomorrow and it would be done the next day. If you give them 1 week to rehire, they could have another 7,000 to 8,000. They could have 12 to 14 to 15,000 PCR tests per day with 24-hour or less return. But no, we as a government, as a corrupt, non-bid contract government, gave them to these people who ship them to a lab in Salt Lake City or ship them to a lab in the West Coast and East Coast, where our people do not get their results back for 3 days or 4 days, all because they're taking our tax dollars, siphoning them into their pockets in their own laboratory, while our own quality lab sits idle. This is just like, it's incredulous to me that we could let this go on. How many people then have sat there and said to a camera, you just heard our governor say, oh, we don't have any tests. Our biggest lab is sitting there laying off people. How can I know that by calling on my cell phone the COO and the president and know we have unlimited capability? What should happen is our state should immediately come out and say, listen, hey, you want to do business in our state, you got to give us results for PCR in 24 hours. If you can't do 24 hours, sorry, we'll find somebody else that can do it, right? But it's all for profit. It's all because they're taking our tax dollars, our state non-bid contracts awarded by people who have no clue what they're doing, and then DOH is not monitoring it. And who suffers? The people of Hawaii. And this is not, don't look at me or Dr. Akiona and say, well, you're just saying that because of business. No, we're not. I'm not in the lab business. I don't do this kind of stuff. We ship our stuff to clinical labs or to diagnostic labs. They do the labs. All we are is the team that helps the people get their tests done or helps hotels or helps staff. That's all we are. We're just the kind of the boots on the ground. But what we will tell you as medical providers, if you're getting something back with Omicron more than 24 hours, you're wasting your time. You need the result back so that you can immediately start isolating, quarantine. Think about that. With how contagious Omicron is, you do this, and then all of a sudden, 3 to 4 days later, you get a result back. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. It's putting the risk of our population, it's putting our people population for somebody else's profit. And this is one of those detriments of the counties running the show. They don't even care about this. They don't acknowledge. They don't care about it. They're not following up because they're not medical people. They have no freaking clue what they're doing with this kind of stuff. So I'm really on a beef about this because who suffers? The people do. Then Dr. Akiona and I are dealing with it as our people are out in the streets, and these people come to us and say, oh, well, I got a test done, 2 days ago and it's not back. And then they come back and they need tested. And you're like, this is so wrong because they're fulminantly contagious now and they're spreading the disease to their family and friends, and it just goes and expands it. So, okay, that's my beef. Sorry.
A real quick question, and Dr. Akiona, you can, since Dr. Miscovich needs some fresh air. Is it possible? Yeah, I'll be the conspiracy theorist now. Is it possible that the state has made a conscious decision to allow COVID to run through our communities and just let the chips fall where they fall? That basically they've said we give up. The whole fallacy of herd immunity. You think that is even possible? That's the strategy that they have taken? Because everything that they are not doing seems to suggest that that's what they're succeeding with that, right? They're going to let it come through. A lot of people are going to get sick. A lot of people are going to die. But that's how we're going to get rid of COVID. You think that's possible?
I don't think you're you were not alone in that. And, it was even with the first surge and the second surge, I think, there was a lot of, even within the medical community, kind of thoughts in that direction, especially when, we had Sarah Park still and Bruce Anderson still in charge. I think we were not alone in thinking like, what is going on, because it was like they were writing the guidebook for exactly what not to do. And I mean, I remember listening in on one of their information sessions with Governor Ige, and it was basically like, sunlight kills it all, you guys will be fine, sunlight. And I was like livid, because we're dealing with sick people. And, Doc and I were, we were doing all these big pop-ups to test and like trying to fight misinformation. And essentially it was like this big, the sun kills the virus. And so there was just a lot along the way as we were trying to make the case for better testing, for better access, for like why wasn't Honolulu kind of doing a little bit more for contact tracing? There, like we're broken records at this point. But it was coming up in a lot of the circles that I was in, that like it feels like they just want everything to just happen, and then at some point it becomes an emergency, and then the military essentially, we would have to activate the emergency kind of services with Haima. And that was one of the things that it frequently came up. We were like, this is not the way to do it. It's not the way. I don't know, Doc, you remember we used to talk about this a lot.
I remember so well. I remember this so well. And I will still say the same thing, and I will still clarify it. The thing that drove me up a wall when I would hear Sarah Parko, if you have symptoms or if you're positive, what are we going to do about it? We can't contact trace. Just go home and just stay home. There's nothing we're going to do about it. And we just went crazy. And you guys know how much Dr. Akiona, especially Dr. Akiona and Dr. Chong Henson, and the what that does, it condemns the people that live in conjugate housing with multi-generations to death. It condemns these people to go home and spread it in their family, because if you have 10 or 12 people living in a home and you send a positive in there, well, how did they do it? What did they do? I told you guys, I'm involved in Navajo Nation. I'm involved in Indian tribes. We ended up even having some recommendations where we would have a group go and put tents in the yard because they had the same conjugate living. You have to separate that person. If you have 10, 12, 14 people in a house, it's physically impossible to have enough room to move a positive. And now you throw Omicron out there and you have the same apathy of like, oh, it's up to you. It's all your conscious choice. I'm sorry, if the disease comes back in a home of a conjugate living, and who are more in the conjugate living people? The same people who have suffered, who have died more, who have been hospitalized more, who will be disabled more. It's our Native Hawaiian, Pacific Island, Filipino, and people of lower income and social, so the higher socio-economic people are all going to be able to move into another room. They're all going to be fine. And it's just not fair. And then we've also pushed it into our kapuna. And that's just pathetic, And so do I think that I think Oahu, that possibly could be the case. I don't think Mayor Victorino thinks that by any means. I've talked to Mike more than enough. I seriously doubt whether your mayor would have that thought. I would say Oahu, it's a really strong chance that is part of the philosophy there. And then Big Island, that's Dr. Akiona's call. I think it's possible on the Big Island. I just don't know.
I mean, we had that discussion because I think Brooks Bear had that statement where it was like, what's the use? When I was asking about isolation and all this different support that people need the option to get, and that, at least in the outer islands, I know that we tend to take care of each other, and we don't, you're not going to let your neighbor suffer. So we've all kind of just make do. And I was trying to tell them that, essentially all these people from places of privilege just saying, just be smart, it doesn't translate that well. And it's just another example of that kind of structural bias that kind of, like he's saying, condemns the people that we take care of on the outer islands to make, quote, smart choices. And for them, that means picking paycheck over testing. That means trying to do the right thing, but ultimately getting infected at work. And then it's the same kind of narrative that we've been getting for 2 years. It's like, oh, what's the use? We don't need to get isolation for people. Majority of the people that I know don't need it, right? And I'm like, well, regardless, it's going to be those minority, that the few people that need it are they actually have the highest risk and the biggest likelihood of spreading it. So it's the people that, like, I had one who depends on public transportation. He caught the bus and he had a sore throat, and he's at work, and we did the rapid PCR and he's positive. And now we're just like, oh my God, he has how many people in the household, and he usually catches the bus. And now what? Nobody will transport him. And that's a good a good example of somebody who needs options for just regular life. And we don't have that. And it's a problem. But he's forgotten because majority of people didn't need support or resources. And I don't know who that was, because all the people that we're talking to need it. So
yeah. And there's no reason. And then there's the other thing that, we've seen black and white on TV. We've seen it in the papers. We've seen it from UHERO. So we are predicting like the highest ever tax collections for the state this year, right? Okay. Over $8 billion. So on one hand, we have these leaders saying, oh God, we got to protect businesses. We got to protect the businesses. In other words, the hell with the people. Go, if your hospitals are overrun, the hell with the hospitals, the hell with your disability. But our tax coffers are massively full. And then the legislators have all come out and the governors all coming out and they're like, well, we're going to have a new $1 billion to put in our rainy day fund. Okay, I don't know, but it's raining freaking cats and dogs, and it's called a pandemic, and it's called that the people of our state are suffering. So that's what rainy day funds are for, is to support the people. They could support businesses that are struggling. We have pushed so hard, and I see some of the comments to say, take a few dollars and go out and buy masks. Okay, this is fresh off my cell phone right now. Okay, fresh. I might as well drop a name because it's my little break. I'm actually, people who know me know that I know Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam, and Eddie's been over and he's here, and he is. I'm helping him plan, and this is all voluntary, all free, his 2020 concert tour. And the guy is such a gem. He is so much. He's like a local boy, man. He spends a lot of time here, and the bass guitarist is from Waimanalo and things like that. And he just wants me to tell him, if I'm going to do these concerts, I want to do them safe. And I basically said to him, Eddie, I have a great idea. Why don't we get you and buy you N95s, and everybody who comes in gets an N95, and that's just a gift of safety. Because if you're going to put people in an arena, that's the best thing you could do in an arena besides ventilation, is have people in a high quality mask that fit. And he's like, no brainer. So I called one of my massive vendors that deals with 3M. You know what the cost of N95s are right now? And these are KN95s, the ones that are comfortable. 30 freaking cents a mask, right? And we're sitting on a freaking $1 billion of our taxpayer dollars, and we can't buy our children 30-cent masks to keep them safe in our classrooms, or even distribute them to the people in our state to keep them safe. Because Dr. Akiona and I will tell you, when you look at how contagious Omicron is, it's N95 is the best thing you're going to ever do. And surgical masks, they're okay, but the problem is they pinch out at the corners, and your air can come. It's hard for them to come across this way. They come here and here, and then unless you really pinch it, you get some in here. So they're not that great. But an N95 is what we could wear in a medical setting and still feel safe. 30 cents, and we can't buy them for our school kids. So I see someone says, where can I get them? Actually, that's my cost to buy 50,000 at a time, which is what I buy, which is what the state could buy. So that's a large bulk price, where I buy them. But that shows. So someone said, yeah, they mark those things up so damn much. People are taking advantage of this whole situation.
Even the tests. I saw some posts this afternoon about the prices that the local pharmacies, not CVS, there were some local mom and pop pharmacies, I guess, on a couple of the other islands, and they're quadrupling the price for the Binax and for the Flowflex. Those guys should go to prison. They should go to prison for gouging during a pandemic. I know it's against the law, but again, nobody gives a shit. Our state is just, I was gonna say back in the day, we would switch gears a little bit, but we were young when one of our cousins would catch chicken pox. We would all go and play with them, right? Our parents would take us over to their house to play with them. I don't know if they do that anymore. You probably get arrested for doing that, but that worked. Everybody got chicken pox. Everybody got immune, and no one ever got it again. And I think some of these decision makers, the brain had stopped, and it's stuck at the 70s or 60s, 70s, and they figure, just maybe the same mentality: get everybody sick, and then everybody gonna be safe. it kind of goes along with what Josh Green says, right? Natural immunity, you get boosted, you don't have to worry, you go out, blah blah blah. But I guess for me, what bothers me is now I want to kind of talk about the cruise ships and the healthcare crisis. Someone spoke a little bit about that, but we can put the cruise ships with everything else, with all the other gatherings, and they're not doing anything. But this healthcare crisis is scary. Queens West, you know, I was talking to Charlie before the show that we keep talking about the COVID numbers of people in the hospital. They're not talking about all the rest of the people in the hospital. As doctors, what does that mean? Queens West now, state of emergency, more admissions than beds. What does that mean?
No, it's bad. So I mean, anytime Honolulu was having a problem, it has a direct impact on us because we usually feed our stuff over there, right? So we're always looking for beds. And so like a lot of times we were in normal times having to if I didn't have a personal connection on Oahu, sometimes my patients would have to sit, right? So we rely on the specialists in Honolulu to take care of my stroke patients, my people that need. We can do some things over here, but a lot of it gets transferred. And so when they're on divert, we are totally screwed on the outer islands. And so it just has collateral impact on everybody. And so I think that happening should have been a much bigger story. I mean, just the fact that they're at that point. I mean, West Hawaii, I'm sorry, West Oahu has just a ton of people. That's where my daughter usually lives with her father, and her auntie works there. So it's one of those like when they're already stressed, and then it's only a matter of time before centrally we all get stressed out, and this isn't. I don't understand why we're waiting for stuff to happen. And I mean, Doc has worked with organizations that set up contingency plans. So there is a way that we can kind of prepare for what we know is coming. It's just I don't see anybody making a move or feeling like this is urgent. But I mean, as an outer island physician, it makes me scared because it usually means my patients have soon are not going to have any options, and they'll still have heart attacks and accidents.
Okay. Let me pile on and just tell the truth. We already know how overwhelmed the hospitals are. Most of us know the entry point to a hospital is emergency room. They are burnt out. They are stressed. When you're stressed, you make mistakes. If you come into emergency room, they don't announce it, but you have to triage care, right? So if you have a line of 6 hours out there and you have people in here, and normally you would do a CAT scan and an ultrasound and do all these other tests and call a specialist in to see someone because you want to know whether it's a heart attack or not, or it's not a good example, but just to give you an idea, everybody, you have to skip 2 or 3 of those. Because if not, someone out there may die and you have to skip through it. And I can't do the CAT scan, or why don't you go home and see your doctor when normally they would be admitted. And I'm not criticizing those people. That's just what they're forced to do. They're forced to triage based off of this is all I got. These are the only tools I have. Does that get reported? Is that reported to the state that they called anything? No, it's called these people are doing the damn best job they can, and that's all they can do. And they try to save the people they can. And then, we don't get this data, right? But we should demand this data, because you know what we're going to be getting right now? We're going to have what's called diversion. All right. Does anybody know what diversion is? Okay. So if you come to, here on Oahu, what diversion means is Queens is our trauma center, right? And then you have other places. Well, we may get a situation where Queens West is a perfect example. It could be on divert. Well, then you could live out in Kapolei, but then now they have to take you to Polymomi. Or maybe Polymomi's on divert, and now you have to be taken to Straub. And then what happens is the ambulances are so busy that if you live in Eva, you may have an ambulance that's coming from Kaneohe to get you because all of the other ambulances are on divert because they have to drive so far. Well, guess what? If your Kapuna grandma is having chest pain and her heart is stopping, that can cause her to not survive, right? But are we ever going to see that in a statistic? But if you talk to anybody in medicine or EMS or things, that's happening right now. And that's a consequence of the decisions made by our leadership. That's a failure by our leadership. And those are the things that we have to. I wish if we could demand a report, get a demand a report from EMS on diversion and get a demand from wait times in emergency rooms. Those would be really nice data points to be demanding to show the failures in our health system. And then I'm going to say something else. All right, Dr. Akiona and I and all the family doctors in this island, you know what we live and breathe? Keeping you healthy, keeping you out of the emergency room, keeping you away from the surgeons, and keeping you away from the cardiologists. We want to keep you healthy. Well, what's part of keeping you healthy? Well, we want you to do preventative stuff. If you need a CAT scan, or if you need a colonoscopy, or maybe you need to have some polyps taken out, or you have a spot in your lungs that needs to be biopsied to make sure it's fine. Good luck. You can't get that. We're not allowed to use everything's closed. Everything, you can't use CAT scan. You can't use the hospitals. The surgeons can't do that. So it gets delayed. First it gets delayed a month, and then it gets delayed 2 months, and then the mammogram's delayed. Oh, guess what? Congratulations. Now you have metastatic cancer. Right. Are we calculating those numbers? Right now, why are the hospitals full so much? Because of the delay in healthcare that has not been taken care of because of the failures from before. So, those are the facts. Those are irrefutable. I'm not making this up. I'm not estimating. I'm not guessing. This is 100% what life is like in medicine. And these all cost the people of Hawaii, the families, our families, your friends, it costs them dearly every single day.
Well, yep. Pretty stressful. I know I'm seeing some of the comments about how some of the treatments are being postponed because of that. I know Melissa Bolton talks about people coming in and they have a little nodule, but they can't get anything done. That nodule becomes a mass, as you just said, Doc. I remember Charlie. Remember when we had Dr. Akhtar Murtaza, and he said, "You cannot only count the deaths from COVID." This was way back in the beginning. He said, "You cannot just count the deaths from COVID. You got to count the deaths that are happening because of the lack of treatment because of the COVID surges." That was over a year ago, and that's what we don't count. We don't count that. We don't count. This is what bothers me, and I don't get it. Why every time, I don't care who it is, whether it's Ige or Green or Char or Hilton or any of them, they try to paint this picture that it's not that bad. It really, it's not that bad. I see Hilton now; he's a little concerned, but he was there when Blangiardi made his first, or when the governor made his first press conference. Hilton was there to assure everybody that the hospitals were in good shape, even though he knew, or he should have known, that the surge was coming. So I blame them all. Nobody gets a pass on this one, Doc. Nobody. Nobody in our decision-making cabinet, because they have failed us time and time and time again. Every single one of them.
Yeah. No, and we haven't even caught up. from, I don't know, every time we've delayed care and we try our best and we can't catch up. And then I think when people are asking me, what can we do to help? I tell them, talk about how the surges, how my office not being able to see, my regular patients because we're taking care of COVID. Talk about the disruptions in your care, and because the more we talk about it, I think in general, as local people, we don't grumble enough. It's just, we don't want to make trouble, but I think it's time. It's time for. I sat in front of one of the docs that had gotten flown over by HMSA. He was an Oahu-based doctor, a pediatrician, and he listened to me talk about some of the hardships that we were having out here. And then he kind of condescendingly said, "Well, that's some really nice anecdotal evidence you have, but people suffer." And it was super, I just wanted to punch him in the face, because I'm like, it's not just anecdotal, because you think that the impact of that one family that struggled and the 4 kids that, now that we're talking about, there's so much collateral kind of impact from one family. And this was true so many times when I was looking at how people move through cancer care on Maui. One mistake, they had mistaken a patient and they switched a psych patient for a breast cancer patient. And that was a very crucial mistake. But the entire town knew about it. And that impacted a bunch of people's trust in healthcare. So it's like, his attitude is very much like, yeah, that's cute. It's a story. But the thing is, especially on the outer islands, one bad interaction, one poor outcome, one kupuna just left behind, one interaction can just have a lot of collateral effect down the line, and suddenly we lose a bunch of people that would have been contributing to society in a lot of good positive ways. So I don't know, I think that's probably one of the things I've been telling people the most, is talk about your experiences and let the leadership hear about it. It means so much coming from the patients. I tell all the county council, I tell anybody who will listen what I'm seeing, but it means a lot when it starts to come from the patients that are being affected, the parents losing their kids, the kids losing their parents. They can't ignore you. There's too many of us.
I see some of you asking about getting the mayor back on the show. I thought we were going to have him on. Dr. Berman had asked to come on when we had the 4 experts on, Tim Brown and all of them. But unfortunately, our platform can only hold 6 people. So I told Capono to have asked Berman if she wanted to come on at a later time, and she said yeah, and that she would have the mayor's office contact me. We have an open invitation to our show. And Dr. Berman did want to come on. I'm not sure why they haven't reached out, but I can follow up on that. I don't know if any of them really want to come on right now, because what do they say? I mean, what would they say? So I don't expect any of them to come on.
I have an idea.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mel.
Yeah.
How about I'm sorry? I'm sorry we failed you. I'm sorry for the suffering. I'm sorry we didn't anticipate. And I'm not pounding Dr. Berryman. Dr. Berryman has probably been one of the best voices of people in her role. So I think you guys are pretty lucky. But I mean, I've never heard a Governor Ige or anybody in the leadership say, I'm sorry, as we have all these numbers of deaths increasing and the hospitals are getting overflowed. They just look and say, nope, it's your problem. Oh, your problem. You should have done something different.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are just super, super tired. I know Scotty has asked this question several times tonight. I know we've asked this question pretty much every time you're on, but the answer keeps changing because availability of treatments and so forth. Where are we today on treatment? Monoclonals. I understand that some of the monoclonals were the supply was reduced to our state, but where are we right now? I am sick. I test positive. I have symptoms. Do they just send me home? Is that what's happening now?
Yeah, and you've hit a huge beef for me, because basically, we have this ration supply, and the Department of Health has washed its hands, and they've given it to the Hawaii Healthcare Association, to Hilton's group. And then they just basically send out a list for all the hospitals and a handful of the FQHCs, and you have to put a supply order in, and then they ship it to them. Okay, and there's only about like 240 doses a week for the state, and I immediately asked them, what about the 60% of the state that's not affiliated and doesn't get their care from a doctor working at Queens or in a community health center? You know what the answer was? Nothing. Zero. And
Yep.
go online right now. To tell anybody, go online. If you're a doctor, go online and Google what are the indications for Paxlovid and where can I get it for someone in the state of Hawaii? Nada. Nothing. No guidance, no nothing. No directives to the medical providers to say, here is the state's directives for Paxlovid. The other one, that's the oral pill. The other one is called Sotrovimab, and that is in replace of Regeneron. It is the one of the 5 main monoclonals that is very effective, and it's a lifesaver. It's one of those ones, if you're severe risk, both of these, if you have severe risk and you get that, the pills are, you want them within 3 days to start. It's a 5-day course. Sotrovimab, it would be nice if you get it in the first couple of days. 90% chance you're not going to be in the hospital or certainly be in ICU. Okay, that should be reserved for the patients that are high risk, that basically are almost ones that Dr. Akiona and I could pick out right away when they get COVID. You go, uh-oh, you're 50-50, man, this patient's going to die. I mean, and we know that. We already know that from the data that's available, that who has the risk. It's going to be people, I could spit out the research, what the data just came out with, and it shows, well, guess what? If you're over 75 and you have 4 of the main health conditions, whether it's heart disease, obesity, pulmonary disease, kidney disease, immunosuppression, you're likely going to die, right? We know who it is. And then you just keep taking off one condition and your risk goes down, and you keep going down an age group, 4 conditions, your risk goes down. It's very predictable. This disease now, if you study it, it's predictable. You know who could be treated, you know who's at risk, you know who should be getting those medicines, and those people will have their lives saved and will not clog our ICU. Has our state done anything for that? Zippo. I dare. I'd love someone to research and find out what the state of Hawaii's guidelines are of who gets these rationed medicines. What is the guidelines? And then what I can tell you is, guess what? I'm involved across the country in other states, and they've even consulted me, and I've volunteered my time, and I'm involved in developing protocols to do it. And you know what? I could write it in about 20 minutes. I could have a detailed protocol because I just described what it is. You should have, if you're over 75 and you have high risk of these conditions, you should be eligible to get those medications. And you should have your doctor have to send electronically your medical records over to the Department of Health, who should have a dedicated staff member who reviews it and then sets up an appointment, has the pharmacy waiting to give you your medicines, or has an appointment set up for you within 24 hours. And therefore, there is one person who makes a decision based on guidelines that are evaluated. And when a doctor sends it in, it is basically putting their license on the line by saying, yes, my patient. But otherwise, no. They're sitting there going to the friends and family of whoever is holding on to them. They make the decisions with no oversight.
I experienced, just for the people out there, if you ever came close to a situation what you're just talking about now, the pandemic wasn't here. But I remember back in 2012 when I had my open heart, right? Just so happened that night they brought me into the ICU at Queens was a night they had that humongous 6-car pileup on Cunha Road, and they brought everybody into Queens. I mean, there was people in the hallways, and I was just fortunate enough to get that last room. Because if not, but see that's talking about something that's not COVID related. Now you throw COVID into the mix, it gets worse on top of that. It gets worse.
Yeah.
And I think, for the outer islands, um, we had a really good plan in the beginning. I don't know what happened. Mel and I, we talk about it all the time. We opted out, right, of the safe travel so we could do our thing, and it was proven. But I don't know where they had free Kool-Aid being passed out, but man, they don't talk about it anymore. And I see it every day. Now what I'm getting worried about is people coming in and the systems at the airport. And it's not on us. It's not on the security. It's on Roberts has the contract, right? They're the ones that are doing all the screening. And you can see sometimes people coming in and they just there's no rhyme or reason. There's bodies coming from all different angles. They're not funneled into any specific corridor. They can be way down the end, down by Nawili Wheeling side of the airport by gate 10. And they'll come out by gate 3. And gate 3 is normally inner island flights. So they get mixed in. So those guys will not go through the screening process. They'll just filter right on past. And those kind of things get scary, unless one of us stops them and says, "Hey, you need to back up. You need to go and get screened." But then again, now having and I oversee all the outer island airports, and now I'm getting reports of personnel, security personnel, Hilo, Maui, Molokai, personnel are getting sick. It's going to come to a point where they probably, if it keeps on going the way it's going now, we probably won't have any security to watch the airports that's badly needed. And that's the part that sucks. That's the part that sucks. So I was mentioning to Mel earlier, this is the first time in my life I have really, really taken to heart being antisocial. That's the only way you're gonna create that social distance. There's no other way. Local style, hey, how are you, brother? How are you, sister? Like honey, like hug. Now it's like, sorry, you just cannot take that chance, right? And I don't think, and today was one of those days that I said to myself, I must have let in the now Willy Willy area, which is pretty much the tourist mecca portion. I see them driving their rental cars. I must have, flashed my lights, let them make the left turn about 6 separate times, and not one of them ever said thank you. One of those you let them go and they just drive like it's their God given right. That's how I see they act when they're coming off the plane. It's my God given right, whether I'm infected or not. I'm gonna get up and close and personal with you. No, you're not. And that's what makes things get like this. And I think it's growing. It's growing by the minute. I see it coming, and that's what I get so afraid of. That we won't have the hospital space on Kauai to take care if we had just one big outbreak. We won't have the bed space. No way. No way.
Well, Charlie, today I had to head towards Pui, so I went the back road past the harbor, and the ship was in,
Yep.
and there were a ton of people walking because they're gonna walk now. They're gonna walk up to go pick up their turos, or they're gonna walk up to Anchor Cove or Harbor Mall, which is where they hang out. Tonight they're all in the bars,
Yeah.
guarantee. But
Mm.
there was probably, and I'm not exaggerating, they must have just came off the boat at the same time. But I'd say there was probably about 75 to 80 of them on that stretch between the boat and the Willy Willy Park.
Right.
And I would say about 80% of them did not have masks, although they were that's not families, they were groups. They came out of that, you make friends on the boat, right? You make new friends, and they were all in groups coming down, and not very few had masks on. And I was just thinking, right now they're going out to ABC store, they're going to buy their booze, and we had over 2,000 people on that ship that more than likely came off. The other thing is, I know the HTA came out and said, oh, they have their protocols in place. They have, if they get sick, they have uh, facilities on the ship. We're not stupid. We know when those people get really sick, they go to the hospital. They're not going to leave them on a boat infirmary. They're going to have to try and take them off that boat and put them in our hospital. Again, using up more of our very limited resources. And no one seems to care.
Yep.
No one seems to care, man. Just pile it on. Pile it on. Bombay, they learn.
I'm wondering why they don't make more moves to kind of get, I don't know, share some of the risk. I mean, I feel like if we cared a lot enough about our community, we would try to get the cruise ships, like kind of to pay to play. Like, I feel like I don't understand why we are not
Well,
being
no,
more.
here's something to look at. The first ship that arrived yesterday, right, on the news, pulling into Honolulu Harbor. Was there any precautionary means put into play when the thing was docking? Zero. We've seen it before. We've seen
Yeah,
action taken when 2 years ago when the cruise ship and there was this danger protocol, right? It was set up that bingo. I mean, you had to pass through so many checkpoints to get off that boat. Are they doing it now? No. And there's no rhyme or reason.
yeah, it doesn't make
There's no rhyme
sense.
or reason. Yeah. And the sad thing about it, I don't know if you heard in the news, yesterday's cruise ship, I believe it docked in San Diego. They talked about it. I think it was San Diego or one of those places. 55% of those on board were infected. 55, not
Well, they
5%. I had to listen twice when I said, how much?
they
Yeah,
just reported today that there's more than a few positive cases on the ship right now that docked
yeah,
in Hawaii, and they're not allowed to come off the ship. They just allowed to stay. And it was so cute the way they said it. They have this isolation wing that all the positive people go, so they can all spread the virus because they already get the virus. This is how stupid these people are.
no,
I
but
I,
but,
I
but,
get I
but
get.
here's the problem is they already went infect the others.
Yeah,
They probably never take the test. So they made landfall already. They made landfall.
I mean, yeah. So you got a whole shitload of them that were walking along the sidewalk without masks today. I mean, it's pathetic. I guess for me, why was it so difficult for us to say, hey, like Dr. Tim Brown says, right? Postpone the opening of school for 2 weeks. Let's see how this variant goes in the next 2 weeks. Same could be said about the cruise ships. Let's stop them for another 2 weeks or a month. I want to say thank you to Norwegian Cruise Lines. Um, they were scheduled to dock on Oahu on the 9th as well yesterday and do their circuit. But the president of Norwegian Cruise Lines said, we have concern for our guests, our crew, and our communities. I read the email, and we're going to cancel all our trips, all our voyages until March. See, they deserve to be commended. And I want to take this time to thank Sue Kanoho from the Kauai Visitors Bureau because I know that she has been working with all cruise lines in the last 3 weeks to get them to hold off, but only NCL, Norwegian Cruise Lines. Now, wait, they changed their mind. They're not going to wait now. I didn't see that. If they change their mind, then forget what I just said, and they can kiss my ass. But I haven't heard that yet. I haven't heard that yet. But I go double check. I'm gonna go check right now. Sorry, because I need to take that back. Go ahead, guys. Take it over.
Well, I saw a football in play. Where's that football there? Oh yeah.
I just want to say congrats. Let's change the subject. This was mine, and I have, look at that. I have my custom football from the new national champions, University of Georgia.
Yay!
You gotta love it.
Yay!
You gotta love it.
I
So
picked, and if anybody doesn't believe me, go check my page. I picked the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep. And if
I'll take it.
nobody believes me, go check my bank account. I picked the
You you picked Roll Tide, right? Yeah.
Oh no.
So yeah, I'm gonna be keeping this because that was given to me by the it says here, in recognition of your sacrifice and dedication, University of Georgia Athletic Association during the COVID pandemic. So they were so nice. They were just such wonderful people down there, and they know how crazy I am because I wanted to, I was always, they always had to get me a football when I was there because I wanted to be catching football when I'd be out there as my teams are out there swabbing. I'm out there throwing football with the quarterbacks in the end zone or in the field. So
Somebody's got to do the hard work.
well, I mean, it's how I just
Oh, I
broke.
think.
It's how I just broke the stress of trying to run these programs and because that there's so much stress because you can't have a false positive and pull somebody out of the game when they're really not positive and so but it was a good season and someone's got to do it. So,
Yeah, no, you gotta
you
keep
know,
your hands good.
to both doctors, let me ask you both the question. We have so many moving parts through this whole pandemic.
Yeah.
And people in leadership right now just will not pull the trigger on this one. And for what reason? Yet at the very onset, oh, they were ready to shut down, do everything else. And I was gonna make a comment earlier that when you run through hard times and you're one that uses your hands and you plow your own fields, right? You can talk with experience. So if we're talking about Kauai, and I can only talk about Kauai, I've seen what these people do with their hands to help neighbors. So these people can talk with experience. A lot of these officials, I don't know if they were ever put in that position in their life when they were younger, that they actually plowed the fields and know what hard work is. Because the way they are taking this pandemic at this point in time, they're rolling the dice and they've come up with so many bad rolls and they keep on rolling until they're going to hit that one surprise roll, I guess. And yet so many people get affected along the way and it'll probably be too late. I think, that's one of the things. And so what do you both say to our officials? Like, I mean, we've tried everything under the sun to try to get them off their ocoles to do something. I mean, Scott, you've been one, you've been championing this for a while now, and as well as Kohi, you've come from the backside, and you go out into those rural areas that average Joe Schmo doctor, you know, you're like that TV show where they had that female doctor, I forgot her name, medicine woman. She would go out into all different parts of out there. But we don't have enough people that want to do the fight. What do you say to these officials? Hey, we don't have enough. I mean, we're tapped out with all the fighters. You got to give us some fighting edge. What do you say to them?
they're not listening. They're not listening to anyone. I mean, think about it. We who has taken a microphone in a leadership role and was not afraid to speak about COVID. We started the show off, and that's why we're all so happy that Representative Kai Kahele basically came out and he looked and said, no, you got to do this. And he said it repeatedly, and he went on the press. Well, we know who gets the microphone. Josh gets it more than anybody. And then, the governor barely kind of goes up there if he has to. And then we get a press conference like today where, he was polite, but he really didn't answer the questions. And then you have Libby, who, maybe about every 2 weeks she'll come up and she'll say the right thing, but there's no follow up, right? They kind of then put her back in the cage, and then they let her back out because I mean I know she's being very, very muted by the governor, and who else? And then you've got you know the probably the second or biggest microphone grabber is Mayor Blangiardi. I mean, and you see him spitting and yelling at the microphone, and then sometimes he'll bring up his cheering audience of people bowing to him that will come up that he selects, and you know then periodically the neighbor island mayors will come up, but pretty rare. So then go from there. Name me one local representative, whether it's House or Senate, who has constantly or repeatedly been willing to stand up and address the people. Anybody name somebody that's repeatedly willing to stand up and take on and say this is what we should do or what we shouldn't do? None. As you were saying earlier, Mel, they've dodged us. They've done nothing. The House and Senate has basically crawled in the hole, and they haven't done diddly squat through this whole pandemic. They've let the governor and the mayors do whatever. And yet, you know what's going to happen? What is this? Probably March, April. Man, the signs are going to come out, and there'll be campaign fundraising that will come out, and they're all going to maybe then come out and do a few little gestures for COVID just because it's political. And then they're going to ask you, everybody who's watching, they're going to ask you for a vote. Okay? That's where the change has to be made. That's where the change has to be made. Our democracy has to be part of the change where, we've watched all these things happen. And, if you're someone out there and you're listening and you're contemplating running for office and you have an incumbent out there, man, oh man, drop the rule book and start now and get out there and stand up, learn about COVID, stand up for the people, go listen to them about the suffering they're enduring and learn, and you will become a great candidate because you will actually be a person who will listen to the people. Wouldn't that be just amazing to have people coming to office that actually listen to the people and don't just take campaign fundraiser money and then come out and do a little fluffy sand run, because they're all ducking right now because they don't want to come out and say, oh, I stand up for you people who are suffering and losing people and dying, because if I say I support you, then all the businesses that are going to give me campaign donations will be mad at me. So if I say nothing, then you'll vote for me and you'll give me money and I win.
Yeah.
That is freaking right on the nail's head, buddy.
Sucks, yeah.
I mean, but that's what's happening. I think Charlie and I have been talking about this for a while now, but that's what's happening right now. It's a very, very controversial issue, and the lobbying on the side that supports the business and what we're seeing, they have the money, and but this is the time. I think this election, we'll see if we could fill that legislature with every seat with someone from the village. Can you imagine how wonderful that would be? Can you imagine how productive that legislature would be if everyone came from the village with a genuine concern and care for the people rather than special interests? That would be the right thing. I just want to say, I just clarified with Sue Canojo, that's not true. NCL did not reschedule their ships. So I know I saw somebody said they had spoken to the Big Island. If you have anything to show that, please send it to me. I definitely want to get that out to Sue because Sue just texted me back right now and she said absolutely not. But if it happened on another island, please let me know. I really would want to see the not saying that you're lying. I just want to see where that came from. Thanks.
And Uncle Charlie, I think that I just wanted to speak to what you had asked before, and I think it's something that like as we're training like students and teaching people and stuff, I think empathy is one of the hardest things to teach. And you know, like, we come across a lot of people, you know, I think I talked about it a little earlier today. I was on Hawaii Care Choices, and it's like in our family we've seen both sides. We've struggled and we've succeeded, and I think part of what keeps us engaged and what makes me feel good is that I've been there, so I kind of feel like I can relate. I remember being left behind, and so like that, you know, I agree. I think that a lot of the leaders probably never had to struggle, and I think that's a nice privilege that, you know, you've never had to like watch your family member kind of suffer with no, you know, no solution, or be kind of like just left behind and treated very poorly. I think that's a nice privilege, and there's a select group of the leaders who kind of, they really do, they lead from there. They lead from this idea that everybody has these same privileges, and we don't. And I think that's why I'll never run out of a job, because I mean, there's more than enough people to speak up about this. That you know, that there's a lot of us have struggled, and a lot of us will continue to struggle because the people at the top never had to, so they don't understand like what real life is like when we cannot access care. There's so many gaps in care, and I feel like, you know, we downplay it too much. So today we were talking earlier about, you know, the myth of the well insured, and so, you know, in Hawaii we are so well insured. Everybody has insurance, but nobody has access to a doctor. So but you know, it makes the well-to-do and the privileged leaders feel good because we're insured, but we don't actually get care. But you know, they'll just say, well, you know, just be smart about it then. Just be smart. Very vague, hand waving, no clear solutions. They'll just figure it out. And you're right. I think it's coming from a place of not experiencing a lot of the hardships that maybe a lot of us have. And that's hard to teach them. I hope they don't have to learn it firsthand, but I feel like that's the only way they're gonna understand where we're coming from.
Well, you know, not to change the subject, but I did want to share just on point what both of you said. This may or may not have anything to do with COVID, but I have learned firsthand undertaking this new task. When you've got people from the mainland doing all the ordering for you, right? They send equipment down here, and when they send it to the wrong island, and when we call them up, they said, "Oh, can you just drive it over?" And I said, "You know, do you have an almanac or an atlas? What's that blue thing between? Yeah, what's that blue thing between the islands? That's water."
Um,
Yeah.
hey,
No,
I see. I have to answer George's question, because George is just he's been such a star in this whole process. He said this a couple of times. George's question says, "Can I speak to the comments? What I said is gross negligence," which I really, you know, I chose those words very, very directly. I understand what their legal implication is, because after our show, I think I went on that show, and I was hoping to elicit some response from the judicial side of our democracy, because here's what I mean, George. And you know, I've said this on the news. I was on 3 or 4 newscasts, and they cut and pasted, but I want to make sure everybody understands. My first concern, where the failure and the gross negligence stands, is for the children of Hawaii that basically are going to our schools. If any child has a health condition that puts them at risk for COVID, regardless of age, and even regardless of their vaccination status, they are at risk, and we should have, in this Omicron surge, an alternative for distance learning. We should have prepared. We knew it from November. It could have been prepared. There should be an option for parents for distant learning. You should not be forced to send a child, whether it's preschool all the way up to 12th, if they have health risk, in a closed environment, poorly ventilated, 3 feet apart. So that's number one. Because right now, all the parents out there know that there's like, oh, we had some distant learning, but they're all already spoken for. Give me a freaking break. Don't tell me that. You just create them and make it happen. Second, the teachers. If you are a teacher and you have a verified health condition that makes you an at-risk person, you should be allowed to be dealing with distant learning, because look at the two, how they come together. There's going to be a group of kids here and there's going to be a group of teachers here. Just do some work, match them up, and let these poor kids and teachers not be put in harm's way. So that is gross negligence, that nothing has been done to address these people, and then they are being forced, our children and our teachers, to go in. Notice, I'm not talking vaccination here because I don't give a damn. It's all about the health risk, because the data we now have shows that whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, of course, if you're not vaccinated, your risk is through the ceiling in any of the conditions. Even if you're a teacher and you're vaccinated, if you have health risks, you still have risk. All right. So for the parents who are saying, oh, you can't do that, I totally get it, man. I want our kids to have in-person education. So now let's take everyone else. Let's take healthy children, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. What did I say early in this show? I said, and I even got the price points right here. I said, let's get the freaking now 30-cent N95s, and let's get 3 different sizes, and let's get every child that walks through the door of a school. I don't care if it's in Ka'u or if it's down in Kahala. Give them all a freaking mask, show them how to wear it, and say, okay, it's a mandate. If you're going to come into these doors, you're going to wear a mask that protects you and protects those around. You're not going to wear a gaiter, and you're not going to wear a cloth mask that shows on it because you think it matches your clothing. And and that's where I started. That's where I started, and that's where I said the gross negligence is. And then finally, I could go on and on and on to talk about why haven't there been more checks on ventilation? Why don't they use CO2 monitoring? Why haven't we started the test to stay program, which is the best practice? We have gazillions of dollars that the federal government gave us, and we're using a federal program where by some contractor in California, where they ship tubes to the class. The teacher has the kids spit in the tube, and 3 days later they get a PCR back. Give me a break. What a waste of time. The best practice right now for test to stay is basically you have antigen tests, and the kids are tested like in this type of incidence and prevalence. The kids are tested twice a week, and then if someone in the classroom is positive, instead of sending everyone home, you let the kids stay in school, but then you push the testing cadence up for that classroom to day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7. And so then you're keeping the education going, but you're doing a cadence of testing that should find if someone converts from that exposure without really exposing. And if everyone's in an N95, you're not going to have a rampant spread. So anyways, that's the plan. That is what should be happening. And to force kids at risk with health conditions back with no alternative, gross negligence. To force teachers, which a lot of our teachers love their jobs and teach well into their 50s, 60s, even some into their 70s, extra gross negligence. It's just pathetic.
Yeah, I think George was saying some of the parents felt offended, but I think the message was gross negligence on the part of the state, not the parents. I think some parents may have taken it as, if they're sending their kids to school in this environment, it's gross negligence. The bottom line is this: the Department of Education. I actually watched the interview, and it was very clear. But there are some parents that simply cannot. They don't have the resources or availability of someone to watch, especially the younger kids. That's why it would have been prudent for the state to extend or prolong the opening or postpone the opening for a couple of weeks. That would have made sense. The other I forgot what I was going to say, but the students. The other thing I was going to say was this online training, the online learning, distance learning. I think with the current structure, because they didn't prepare for that, you cannot expect our teachers to do in class or face to face and online. That's just no way. Uh, but the state had time to put together a program for distance learning, which would include bringing in more teachers that can teach online. The nice thing about distance learning is that you could still teach even if you test positive from your home. You can still teach from home, and as long as you're not sick. They just didn't prepare. They didn't plan. They their strategy was hoping that Omicron wouldn't get to our shores, which is dumb. But they found out that it reached, and now our kids and our teachers, healthcare workers, and everyone else paying the price. And it's sad. It is gross negligence on the part of the state, no doubt about it. Anyway, damn, it's 8:20. Scotty says we're back to square one. Yes, we are, man. It's like we never left. It's like deja vu. You know, the state just doesn't learn. They just keep using hope as a strategy, and it just doesn't work. So
Um, I'm gonna address. I was reading something through here where I think it was Dana was saying that the state says, oh, they don't have the infrastructure to do it. That it would take till 1.5 years to do it. Yeah, there it is. Test to stay. Well, I just got my PowerPoint from my team. There is the map of the state of New Mexico right there. This is just sent to me, updated while we were on this show. Okay, while we were on the show, and I don't know if you can read that right there, but basically it shows all the offices that my group has put through the state of New Mexico. And then if I go up here, there's my staff, and then you can read right here the number of sites and number of locations. I'll read it for you because it's hard to read, but basically here's the graph. At the end of 2021, at the end of the year, if you can see that, the number of schools serviced through the state, okay, look at that in blue. Look at the little gap of who hasn't been serviced. That was put together and that was functional in 1 month. In 1 month, we were able to service, it's like, I don't know, it's like 1,600 schools, and it's the 5th largest geographic state in the United States, and it's got big major urban areas like Albuquerque, and then there's Santa Fe, Las Cruces are the next cities, and then you got things that are way out in the middle of nowhere. And so like last month, in the month of December, which was only a partial month, we did 28,000 tests in the Test to Stay program. And I was able to do this. We have about 80 staff total in the whole state doing this, because it's all about logistics. It's all about timing. It's all about where it has to stay. You could have a team of 2 people, and in a day, if you plan their schedule, they could do the test to stay in the classrooms of 10 different schools. And you know, it's efficient. It's not expensive. It's all about the people, and it keeps the kids safe. And it just blows me away when we see this. This program is now the best practice by CDC, by states. It's being used everywhere, and it's not that hard. So it will keep our kids in school. But that's real. This just came to me from my leadership team while we're sitting here. That is live while we're sitting here because we have a presentation. This is going to the governor tomorrow. And I'm doing it in Washington, and we're doing it in Nevada, and we're doing it in Arizona, but no one really cares to get any advice.
Yeah.
Not from you, man. Your mistake was you came on the Mel and Charlie show. That was the beginning of the demise of your relationship with the state. But you know what? Sometimes the truth hurts, buddy. Sometimes the truth hurts.
I think it's just making sense. Like when So when you say it so plainly, it just sounds ridiculous. Like, our situation is so ridiculous. And when I talk about this with my friends and colleagues in different states, they just do not understand like what kind of world we are living in right now. Like, we're like in the twilight zone, because they're like, okay, wait. So you guys are doing all this other stuff, listing all the things that, you guys started at, he was in the SEC, he was like consulting in Africa. Okay, so you guys know what you're doing, and you guys put together a plan for the DOE. We did. We like had all the answers, negotiating, putting pressure where we needed to, trying to make sure that capacity is increased, that people are educated, and they don't listen. And I'm like, yeah, they don't. And they're like, what the, so it's just kind of like, so you guys, you have Tim Brown, you guys have the experts in place, but they still don't want to do anything. And I was like, yeah. And that, I think, is, are we living in a comedy or a tragedy? I don't know yet. I still don't know, but it's, it's blowing our minds, just that you have other states that, Doc always tells me he has these really good conversations, engaging Department of Health, other leadership, they listen. And in our own state, where, and we love where we live. I love that I grew up here. This is my place, but it's disappointing. It's so sad that this is the reality, that we could help, but I don't think it's your fault, though. I don't think it's your fault.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're so obsessed with us, but no.
And guys, I'm not selling anything. I would sit and help and volunteer and show them how to plan this and show them how to do this. I would volunteer and turn them over to distributors to get masks. I would volunteer my time to help the children of Hawaii and the teachers of Hawaii, because as I said it many times on your show, my life was around schools and teachers, with my mom being a teacher, and how much school was part of our life. I'd do anything to help these people. I'm not looking to say, hey, I'm going to design a program for me to run. No one's gonna let us do anything, because they've all hired all their political cronies already, are in here, all their cousins and aunties and uncles and everything. I'm just so sick of that kind of stuff that I just want to help the people, right?
Well, that's our mission. That's what we've been trying to do for a long time, and nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. They're not going to change. I thought by now they would have. With today's news from Queens, I thought we'd see an announcement, but that's not coming. So anyway, guys, it's 8:30. I know we kept you guys half an hour after. Appreciate you guys coming on. I really do. And
Okay.
our viewers.
Who has the best hands here? I think it's Dr. Akiona, probably. I don't know. Well, Mel. He's got. Wait a second. Mel had the right move for a receiver.
Right here. That's it, man. I used to be a receiver.
Yeah. So
you see the scar on my neck? That's thanks to football. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, so you were a receiver, Mel?
Yeah, I was.
Nice.
Hurt like heck.
Yeah. Because that was mine. I was a slot back. I was a slot back or a flanker, and so I was a receiver and a defensive back. But in college, I played offense. I was a receiver. So man, oh man. Now, Charlie, you just crushed people, didn't you? You just broke bones and crushed heads.
No, I was into water polo, but I had to stop because several of my horses drowned. So
and then I know this. I'm going to make sure I don't know. The word is probably out, but there is a secret. I think we have three of the four of us have something very much in common, and I think that's all. Where we were rooting for that frickin' field goal from the the Raiders to go through, so that our Steelers would then go on to the playoffs. And that is Mel and me and the good Dr. Akiona, who trained in Pittsburgh. She went to medical school at the University of Pittsburgh. So
I think Charlie might be a Steeler fan. Look at
Are
him.
you, Charlie?
well, I was a Steeler fan when you had the steel curtain
There you go.
with Franco
There you go.
back in those days. Yeah,
Yeah.
Franco played. Yeah.
There you go. So he's still a Steeler fan.
Yeah.
No, I just
That That was the worst.
You gotta change the color. They gotta get either fuchsia or something like that.
So Charlie, who was your Steel Curtain legend? Who on that defense? Who was like the person that just made you say, "Man, that's what it's all about."
What's his name? Is it Lambert? Yeah.
Yeah.
I used
The
to
guy
just,
with the missing teeth. Ooh.
I used to just, oh boy.
Yeah.
Impact, full impact was the name of the game back then.
Okay. So
Yep.
I didn't make it on the night we had the Steeler paraphernalia, but I had the option to get one Steeler jersey signed that was an authentic Steeler jersey. And guess which jersey I got?
Did you get
Bradshaw.
Jack
No,
Lambert?
yeah, I can. I mean,
No,
Really?
Jack Lambert.
yeah,
Oh,
Lambert.
really?
Jack
Wow.
Lambert was the guy that I just was like, no, I can anybody. And I mean, I love Franco, as you guys know. I've met Franco, and I spent his 70th birthday with him, and I met Bradshaw and met a lot of these other guys. But Lambert, when you talk about the fearlessness of someone who would sacrifice his body, do anything for his teammates, man, oh man, anything to win. And that's where we are now. That's why I think it's good to end it with this. You've got to sacrifice for the people around you. We got to sacrifice. And you guys, Mel and Charlie, seriously, in a way, sacrifice your time, your energy, your effort, your reputation, your relationships to help the people. And so you guys are both pulling the Jack Lambert on here. I say that with respect, man. You guys are just kicking butt and not taking no, and you wake up every day and do it again. And the other thing about Lambert was the dude was 6'1", and I definitely saw him numerous times because I grew up in Latrobe in training camp, and I saw him outside of there. In the summer training, he was about my size. I'm 6 foot and I'm 200 pounds. I mean, the guy was playing middle linebacker, and he was not that big. It was all about heart, and you guys got that heart. So thank you.
Anytime you got somebody missing the two front teeth, in my books, I call them Guido. That's Guido. And the Sopranos, the Sopranos.
Well, you guys are hearing it here tonight at 8:31 p.m. on January 10th. The Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
What was that? What was
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Yeah, the Steelers. They laughed when I said they would win. They would beat them. They laughed. No, trust me. Put it all on the Steelers. Put it all on the Steelers. Trust me.
Yeah. It would be all in the stars for an amazing career by Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I've said this numerous times. Professional wrestling is the only real sport left. Everything else is fixed. Everything else is fixed. The NFL is going to fix. They're going to. Kirk is saying Bucks 31, Eagles 3.
I know.
The NFL is going to fix it so that the Steelers win, so that Big Ben can ride off in the sunset with a Super Bowl ring. Yes.
That'd be wonderful.
Look at Tyson. Give me some of what you're smoking. Hey, I'm telling you, Big Ben is going to do the job with Najee Harris. I'm telling you. Mark my word. Call Vegas tomorrow. Put it all on the Steelers, guys. Put it all on the Steelers.
And
last time I called Vegas, and you know what I got? The number you have reached is no longer in service. Please try the number again.
That's not going to happen if Steelers lose when you try to call me.
Yeah.
But they're not going to lose. They're going to take care of little pretty boy Mahomie this weekend, and you'll see. You'll see.
Watt's going to have 4.5 sacks and 1 strip, and they're going to have like 3 picks. So they'll have to do it they'll do it the old-fashioned Steeler way, which is defense.
Defense. Remember, Defense wins championships.
That's right.
Ask anybody. Defense wins
That's right.
championships.
That's right.
Anyway, guys, we gotta let you guys go. It is late. Charlie, well, anything before we leave, Charlie? I know you've been quiet all night listening. It's hard when you get, when you get our guests that just are so, you get involved that.
No, I enjoy it. It's like stereo. It's like stereo. I catch from all angles, and what they say is true. But for our listeners and viewers out there, I just want to make sure that because for many of us who work in the industry, number one, support your frontline workers. There, and that's not only the medical staff. It's also people that work in the hotels. They got to support their families, but they got to really put up with a lot of craziness. And so, a little word of encouragement, a thank you, mahalo, people that working in the fast food business. And right now there's so much openings, and it's making things tough, especially in the mainland with our that's going on. And so all I ask for our viewers is just give everybody the credit where credit is due. We're trying our best to get through this. And like I said, it's okay in this point in time to be antisocial, because that's the only way you're going to stay safe.
Awesome. I was laughing because we can see
Oh, he's yeah.
we can see
Right.
Dr. Miscovich wrestling with his dog on the side. He wasn't on the screen, so the
Yeah.
villagers couldn't see it, but
I was going to do
Come
this.
here.
I was going to talk
Come look at the
and let
dog.
his face be there, but
Look at the dog.
he's not cooperating. He's
Where? Hey, look. Holy moly, look how big.
He was so big.
He's so big.
He used to be a puppy.
Yeah.
yeah. So
thank you all, guys. Appreciate you guys. You guys always come in and help our viewers.
He's happy.
Whew, it was a long night. It was a long night. It was a long day. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, guys. I think just remember, we are the village. We are Ohana. I added a new one, the green hashtag on our own.
Oh.
Hashtag on our own. And that's, it is what it is, man. I call it as I see it. We're not getting any help from anyone in government. We're not. I don't care what anyone says. We're not. You heard it today, straight out of governor's mouth. Personal responsibility is what it is. So, yeah, let's take care of ourselves, take care of our loved ones, and just be safe. We love you guys. Wednesday night, I think we might get Congressman Kai Kahele. It sounds like he's gonna make it. We'll double check, but we will see you guys on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. God bless. Take care. We love you guys.